Now student, we have to discuss about natural gas. So what we are going to discuss now? About natural gas. Student, natural gas is another non-renewable source of energy. It is non-renewable source of energy. Student, natural gas is found deep inside earth crust, either alone or with petroleum oil. It is found deep inside the earth, either alone or with petroleum oil. Student, natural gas is formed deep inside the earth by the decomposition of vegetation underwater by an anaerobic bacteria in the absence of oxygen. So it is formed by the decomposition of vegetation underwater by anaerobic bacteria in the absence of oxygen. Student, natural gas mainly contains methane. 95% of the natural gas is methane. It also contains ethane and propane in small amounts and contains ethane and propane in small amount. Now student, what are the advantages of using natural gas? Student, it is a clean fuel, so it does not cause any pollution. It is a clean fuel. Because it burns without smoke. And hence do not cause any pollution. Student, it has high calorific value, so it gives more heat. It has high calorific value. Student, it is a complete fuel in itself, so we don't have to add anything. It can be used in domestic and industrial purposes directly. It is a fuel, complete fuel. In itself, So we don't have to add anything. Now student, what are the uses? Student, it can be used for domestic as well as industrial purposes. As a fuel for domestic and industrial purposes. It is used as fuel in vehicles. It can also be used in thermal power plants to generate electricity. Used as a fuel. In thermal power plants to generate electricity. So student, this is all about natural gas. We have discussed about its advantages as well as uses. Now student, so far we have been talking about that this source of energy can be used as a fuel, this can be used as a fuel. So what is a fuel and what are the characteristics of a good fuel? Now let's discuss about that. Now student, we shall discuss about fuels. So what we are going to discuss now? About fuel. Student, the materials which are burned to produce heat energy are called fuels. Material which are burned to produce heat energy are called fuels. Now student, as there are various fuels, so there should be some mean to decide that which fuel is best for our purpose. And student, for this let's discuss about few characteristics of a fuel. First of all, we will discuss about calorific value. Student, calorific value is the amount of heat produced by burning a unit mass of a fuel completely. The amount of heat produced by burning a unit mass of the fuel completely is called calorific value. Student, it is generally measured in kilojoule per gram. It is measured in kilojoule per gram. That is kilojoule per gram. Student, just look at this image. This image is showing you the calorific value of your fuels. Now coming back to the board. Student, when wood is burnt, only hydrogen and carbon atoms present in it burns. Oxygen does not produce any heat. When wood is burned, only hydrogen and carbon atoms in it produces heat. Oxygen does not produce any heat. Student, oxygen does not produce any heat. Therefore, student, those fuels which have oxygen, they catch fire easily or they start burning easily, but they do not produce much heat. Therefore, they have low calorific value. I hope you have noticed in the table. Therefore, the fuels which have oxygen burn readily but does not give much heat, or we can say that they have low calorific value. They have low calorific value. So student, we have discussed about the characteristic of fuel. Now there is another characteristic of fuel which is ignition temperature. Ignition temperature. That is ignition temperature. Student, the substance begins to burn after it has attained a certain temperature, and that certain temperature, the minimum temperature that it has to attain before burning, is called the ignition temperature. A substance starts burning after it has achieved a certain temperature. And that minimum temperature is called ignition temperature. Now student, what is combustion? The burning of a substance in the presence of oxygen or air which produces heat and light is called combustion. The burning of a substance in the presence of oxygen which produces heat and light is called combustion. Now student, oxygen is necessary for combustion, so oxygen is called as the supporter of combustion. Oxygen is necessary for combustion, hence called the supporter. Now student, let's discuss about the conditions which are necessary for combustion. Now student, let's discuss about the conditions which are necessary for combustion. Student, first of all, there should be a combustible substance or the substance which can burn. So the first condition is there should be a combustible substance. Now student, there should be a supporter of combustion like air or oxygen. There should be a supporter of combustion like oxygen or air. Student, third condition is heating the combustible substance to its ignition temperature. Heating the combustible substance to its ignition temperature. So students, so far we have discussed about the characteristic of a fuel. Now student, what are the characteristics that we have to look while using a fuel? Student, it should have low cost, it should be clean, it should have an ignition temperature well above the room temperature. Student, it should be easily transportable, it should be easily accessible, it should be easy to store and transport the fuel. So student, these all are the characteristics that also we have to look in a fuel while using it. So students, so far in today's lecture we have discussed about non-renewable sources of energy. Student, I hope each and every concept of this lecture is very clear to you. Now student, in our next lecture we will discuss about nuclear energy and nuclear fuels, which is also a non-renewable source of energy. Thank you so much.